Hello guys, this is the fourth tutorial video for Accounting 101 presented by Notables.com. I'm Kobe Juan and today I'm going to answer this question. When do I use Table A and Table B? So a lot of you are asking these questions, so it is really important for you to understand this concept before going to your test. So let's get straight to it. So let's set up the example first. Say there are three scenarios, scenario A, B, and C. And I'm gonna draw a timeline for three of them. Three. And before I do anything, let's just assume that the interest rate for three of the scenarios are gonna be 20%. 20%. And the question would be, we are looking for the future value for scenario A, B, and C. Right. So now we can get started. So for scenario A, scenario A, let's say we are investing $2,000 with interest rate of 20%, and then after 5 years, what would be our future value? What would be our future value? And for table B, let's just divide all into 5 periods, right? In the first period, we're paying no money. In the first period, we're paying $100. Second period, we're paying $100. Third, fourth, fifth, we're all gonna pay $100. No more, no less, $100. And then we are looking for the future value of all these $100 added up together, right? Future value of all of them added up together. Oops. Future value. Yep. And for scenario C, we are gonna do exactly the same thing. We are gonna divide them into 5 different periods. So period 1, we are paying $200. Period 2, we're paying $500. And period 3, we're paying $600. So as you can see, it's a bit different from B, as we are paying different amount at each period. And same thing, we are looking for the future value when all of these are added up together, when all this payment are all there together. We want to know how much it's worth after 5 periods, which is 5 years in this case, right? So before I do anything, I want you to understand the difference between table A and table B first. So table A, like what I said in the last video, is pretty much just present value times 1 plus r to the power n, and then that stuff in the bracket and the power is going to be your table A factor. And table B, on the other hand, is all about annuity. So a lot of people are confused about annuity, but you shouldn't. It should be a really easy concept. So annuity basically only have 2 points, really important points. First is a fixed payment. So each period you're paying the exact same amount, no more, no less, same amount. And second is gotta be paid on an ongoing periods. Compared to table A, you only have 1 period of payment and you're done. For table B, you have to pay each period. So let's get back to our example. Let's look at scenario A first. As you can see, we're only going to pay for 1 period. By that, I mean there's only 1 period of payment, so that you don't really have a choice. You can only use table A, right? Can only use table A. So real simple, you just use the $2,000 times the factor, table A factor, by substituting R equals 20% and N equals 5, which is your 5 years period, right? So you will be able to get your future value real easy. Oops. So your N should be 5, and then you find it on your table A, and then you times $2,000, your present value, you should be able to get your future value really easy. When you look at period B, on the other hand, it's a bit different, right? You have like 5 periods of payment compared to scenario A, and if we look deeper, you can see each period from 1 to 5 periods, you're paying the exact same amount. So you satisfy the two conditions of the annuity, right? You have fixed payment, you have ongoing periods of payment, so that we can determine that this is an annuity, so that we can use table B for a scenario B, right? So it's an annuity. Right. So how do we do this? Well, real simple. You take out the future value of this, add up together, put a little a over there, means annuity. So this just means use $100, which is your period. Each period you're paying $100. That's you only need that $100, right? And then you times the table B factor. So table B factor, you are substituting your R equals to 20% and substituting N equals to 5 periods, right? So that when you find the table B factor um, on your table B and then use that times your period payment, which is $100, you should be able to get all of them added up together, which is future value. So if you go to your table B value, find that, you should be able to find that 7.4416. Um, right. So when we look at scenario C, it's a bit tricky. As you can see, is you have ongoing payments, right? Period 1, period 2, period 3. You're paying every period. But if you look closer, you realize that it's not the same. It's not, in other words, it's not a fixed payment. You're paying different amount for each period. So we can determine that this is not an annuity. So you can't really use table B factor in this case. You can't really use table B factor for scenario C, right? So essentially what we are going to do, we're going to do what we do in scenario A, except we have to do it one by one. So let me illustrate that. So when we look at period 1, which is $200, right? We are treating that as your present value, and then use that $200 times your table A factor with an interest rate of 20%. It's not going to change, and then your periods. So R is 20%, and your periods is 1, 2, 3, 4. Will be 4 periods, right? Right. So that should be your future value for the first payment. And then second payment, you do exactly the same thing. You use $500 times table A. And then this time we are plugging an interest rate of 20%. It's not going to change. But the N is different. The period is different because in that period, it's going to be 3. Right? It's going to be 3 periods to the future. So this time we're going to plug in N equals to 3. And then for 600s, we're going to do the exactly same thing. I don't really have enough space here, but I'm still going to write this one down. So table A, same thing. And this time is 20% interest rate. And then the N is 2 periods, right? 2 periods to the date that you want to determine your future value in. And you're gonna do the same thing with $50, except the N is gonna be 1, and then $100 is gonna be 0. So 0, that means you don't need to depreciate it. You don't need to times the table A factor. You can just use that straight away. And then when you plus all of them together, you should get the future value. So as you can see, it's a bit different from scenario B, and it's more troublesome than scenario B. But this is the way you calculate it. And to make you to understand it deeper, I want to illustrate. I want to tell you that for scenario B, you can use the exact same thing as scenario C. By that I mean you can use the table A factor for scenario B as well. So you don't have to use table B factor. Table B factor is a faster way, but you don't have to use it. So let me set it up first. So the figure would be $200. for period one, $5, and then that would be $600, and then $50 in the fourth period, and then $300 in the last periods. So right, let's look at period scenario B, shall we? So for the $100, I'm gonna do exact same thing as what I did for scenario C. Use $100 times table A factor. Use $100 times A factor. Use $100 times table A factor. Is exactly what I did, right? 100A times table A factor. And the last one, you don't need to times any table A factor. So for all of them, you know that the interest rate is not going to change. So the interest rate is going to be 20%, but the n is going to be different, as we talked about before. So n is going to be from 4 to 3 to 2 to 1. This is 0, so you're going to use that figure straight away, right? And then when you plus all of them together, it should be exactly the same thing as when you use $100 times table B factor with R equals to 20% and periods equals to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 periods, right? So as you can see, you can use table A factor and even for scenario B, except that it's gonna take a longer time. And table B is more like a shortcut for you to calculate annuity. But when it's not annuity, you gotta make sure that you are using table A to calculate each period's present value, future value one by one. So you can use table A factor even for scenario B, except that it's gonna take a longer time. And table B is more like a shortcut for you to calculate annuity. But when it's not annuity, you gotta make sure that you are using table A to calculate each period's present value, future value one by one. If you have any other questions, you can just comment below or contact us through noteaquest.com. Thank you.